Funny. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. It's Thursday morning tech talk with me, Kathryn Davies. Hey, I'm glad you were able to take the time and come in. We're just going to take a few minutes to let you know. One, we've got a guest this morning, Paul Deng, who has got a new app called PassionFruit, as you're aware, .me, and he's our guest speaker. We'll have him in just a minute. But I just want to remind you that today is Thursday, and we have our first women's business club meeting at 1 p.m. It's so exciting, right? We're just getting all the little pieces attached and tied up in a pretty bow for our launch on June 10th. Okay, just so that you're aware of that. And of course, don't forget Ivan, morning coffee with Ivan on Mondays at 9:30. And is next week a hustle?
Sorry? Oh, you mean Sherry?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, you mean mastermind?
Yeah, mastermind, sorry.
That's a great question. I have to check my calendar.
Yeah, okay. You'll update us at the end of that, right? I forgot to look.
I will tell you right now. I don't think we do. No, next mastermind is on June 7th.
7th. Okay, that's right. It's got the extra week this month. I knew something was going up here, right? All right, and then don't forget on Wednesdays, hey Linda, don't forget on Wednesdays evening is we've got the investment club with Stephen Lee. And it was a great conversation last night, as usual. And yeah, okay.
And you totally have to be there.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Don't forget, June is a marketing series, so get your name into Maggie at mi.agency.ca.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it's free for members and only $35 for non-members. For a 10-week series. You cannot lose. Okay, even if you get one little tidbit out of it, which with Lindsay, Maggie, and Ivan, I'm sure we'll get just a touch more than a touch of information. All right, and so with all that, if Paul's okay to come back on, I'd like to introduce you to Paul Deng, again, the creator of the PassionFruit.me app. And he's, okay. There he is.
You're on mute, Paul.
Yeah, you're muted, Paul.
Hi.
There he is.
All right.
Welcome. So tell us, what is PassionFruit?
All right. So PassionFruit is an attempt to, I suppose, fill a gap in the online world of meeting new people, trying to find friendship among a sea of strangers. I guess that's the short way of putting it. Hopefully our slant will be more towards delivering better results more of the time for people that are looking for something more tangible, more long-term, more lasting, deeper sort of friendship rather than one-off interactions. Sorry, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, I thought it came off. Sorry. I know. Technical difficulties. What can I say? So it's definitely not a Tinder or the non-business side of Bumble kind of thing.
Okay, so this is interesting. Yes, the non-business. You mean the dating? Because there's a BFF side of Bumble, which is probably the closest thing to something like what we're trying to do.
Right.
So it's not dating Tinder and it's not dating Bumble. That's definitely correct. However, there's some apps out there. There's like a class of apps that the user experience is sort of like Tinder. It's almost identical, but they brand themselves as sort of platonic, communities, and there's that you can't be sexual, you can't flirt in this app, but we've designed it exactly like a Tinder. So so we're actually going to take the opposite approach in terms of that question. Now, we're not saying that we we admonish dating. Like we're not saying that you can't flirt at all. Like so an interesting aspect of Bumble BFF, maybe the closest equivalent is that they segregate to genders. So there's a male side and a female side, and for the BFF experience, you can only go with people of your own gender. And I think that sort of makes sense. It's smart, because if you're going to keep the user experience exactly the same as Tinder, then you really can't police it very well if you're saying that you cannot use it for dating. But we're sort of taking a different approach, because we're opening it up. We're saying that, hey, men and women, maybe there's potential for friendship. We don't want to close off that avenue, right? Sometimes that could happen. But the other sort of nugget that we're asserting is that so in order to facilitate that, no pictures.
Yeah.
That would make it difficult. If you don't have pictures, you kind of take away those ulterior motives. Let's say, like you can't use that as a mechanism to just surreptitiously hunt for dates on a platform that wasn't really designed for that, because it has like this eerie way of creeping into all sorts of ecosystems. You hear on LinkedIn people getting propositions and feeling uncomfortable because they say, well, what? But it's based on their picture, right? Like somebody sees an attractive picture and some wiring goes off in the brain, they can't help themselves. And I'm not sure if you're aware of like how like couch surfing has this whole part of their ecosystem is just, I don't even know if it's true nowadays, right? But this was like well documented back in the day, like at least a few years ago, that sometimes men would just only you can do this, which is weird. You can say that I only want to host women. and then so people would apply to stay at your place at couchsurfing, and then they would basically like filter people out who based on attractiveness. So it's a way to do dating. No, I'm not even kidding you. I actually had a friend who she was saying that she went to Italy, and basically there was this off of the beaten path, this place that some guy put up, and she went there, and he made some advances on her unexpectedly. So it's just it's part of that game, I guess.
Well,
interesting world, huh?
I know, especially on Bumble on the business side, some of those pictures you go, are you sure you're here for business?
Well, there's all sorts of
people. Don't get me wrong, but
there's all sorts of different businesses. One of the most grating things I encountered there's another sort of Bumble Biz is sort of like a attempt to copy what came first is something called Shaper. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Shaper. Yeah. So Shaper, I think, was this trendsetter for like Tinder for networking. Like they really, they were the first ones on the scene to do that. And then everybody else said, hey, well, that's not a bad idea. But what you tend to have on these like networking, platforms is there's a lot of people that really it's not really like soft networking. They're trying to sell their business. It's either some scantily clad dental hygienist who's trying to sell you on getting your teeth cleaned, trying to get leads for their business, real estate agents, lawyers, MLM, the whole gamut. So,
Forex.
Depending on your business, okay, maybe that kind of look it fits the bill. Sometimes it does, right? It's just photography business too. Like they show you, look at the glamour shots that we're able to do. So, some cases maybe makes sense. Yeah.
Paul, tell me, is your background in building apps and software?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have no experience in building apps. When I started this, it was 4 years ago now, I think almost. I had no experience in entrepreneurship either. In fact, I never felt I would become an entrepreneur. It was just crazy to me. Like I never. So before I started this, I distinctly remember I was, raised in an Asian Chinese family, very conservative, values, mindset. Get a steady job, engineer, lawyer, doctor. Your classic.
Yep, you're speaking my language on that.
Right. Oh, hey, nice to see you, Steven.
Hey, great seeing you too.
Yeah. So I would never even enter my head. I was pretty risk averse, and even Steven, about coming back to investments. When I first started learning about investments, it was blue chip, man. It was like Intel, Microsoft, Boeing. I mean, it still did pretty well, but I really stayed away from the speculative stuff to begin. So even that's kind of changed now, But yeah, I really never could see myself doing it, and I think it was kind of like accidental how I got into it. So I just finished my master's in civil engineering. So I came out of that. I kind of realized that I wasn't really passionate about civil engineering. I could do it in a pinch, but I wasn't passionate. So I at that time I was getting more into doing investment stuff. So I thought maybe I'll try to break into like the finance industry, right? So like I done like some pretty much my thesis in my grad dissertation was all about applied math. So I thought, okay, I have some applied math background. Why don't I try to like get a position in some quantitative finance firm somewhere? The reality is that door is really hard to break into. I tried for like a year. I applied to like 5,000 plus. I kept like a journal. Like I applied to like 5,000 plus places. I only got like 5 interviews. So the message I was getting was that for my skill set, I need to go back to school, get more specialized training, like maybe a master's of quantitative finance. So I'd have to invest in more education there, and that would make things a little bit easier. There would be a trajectory in. So then I asked myself the hard question: do I really want that? Is that really, really important enough to me to go and do that? Because it almost felt like I wanted to start somewhere, to contribute somewhere, right? Like I felt like I'd been doing enough school, to be honest. By that point in life, I felt like I wanted to go somewhere and just contribute value. And I was feeling like there's these gatekeepers that are preventing me from just contributing value, right? I'm spending all this time like learning how to hack the interview and resume application process. Yeah. It's just time spent trying to prove to a gatekeeper that you can provide some value. So I gave it a year, but I just sat back and I reflected on it. I thought, well, okay, I can maybe invest 50 to 60,000 at the time, what it was, for this new quantitative finance degree, or because luckily my investment's done okay and I could afford it, or I could I have enough money to bootstrap a startup, and it was like something that my friends kept telling me, but I never really took it seriously. But I started to take it a little bit more seriously. I was like, startup, that's crazy. But I have some savings. I guess I can try to think about this. So I just like took a step back to think about this. So at that time it was just a thought, just like kind of a romantic fancy. I wasn't committing to it because I was still thinking, okay, let me just think about it. If I don't like it after thinking for a while, I'll go back and do something, get a degree, or even just go back to civil engineering. Yeah.
So how did you make the leap from a fantasy to getting someone with, because you don't have any computer background?
No,
and that's what scares me.
I don't.
How do you find that person to make an app for you that you can trust?
Oh my God, that took well, excuse my language. That was the most painful experience in my life, probably, because it's so. Yeah. Okay, so PassionFruit, the idea of PassionFruit was kind of born mid 2017, right? So I was in an idea hunting mode for a while. So I had the conviction after a while of searching. Somebody actually just planted a seed of inspiration in me. They were mentioning how they were frustrated with dating apps. And that sort of like one thing led to another. And I had also tried to use other apps like to find friends and meet people. And just overall had a pretty frustrating experience most of the time. So all that there was a confluence of factors that led to it making sense. And I felt more and more conviction that, okay, it's something I should pursue. And that kind of crystallized around early to mid 2017. So it still took a while. But I had that's so I first I tried to start coding myself. Okay, that was extremely slow. And for non-technical people who are thinking that you can kind of code, I've learned more about ways that you can realistically do it. I would say that in my years, I've listened to other podcasts, other people that are non-technical that have tried to code something themselves. You can go as far as like a very, very early prototype. That's pretty much as, like, realistically speaking, if you have no experience and it's not your forte, like you're not a whiz kid that just you didn't see the world of computer science and now you're just being introduced. Like if that's not the case, like if you're just a non-technical person and you don't have any particular strong talent for it, you can whip up a prototype that's like, half-baked prototype. That's probably the best you could do, realistically speaking. There are people that have done that and that's gotten enough traction, and then they get like a proper team with real chops, real seasoned experience to take over, rebuild it, and then do it properly. So sooner or later you're gonna have to find like a proper technical CTO or team to handle it. So that's what I'll say. One thing I've learned. So yeah, I tried to do that for a little bit, and I realized that this is and I was trying to make a full app from the beginning. I didn't really learn about anything about lean startups or no code philosophy back then. I just was just getting in, so it was just kind of like bumbling and stumbling in the dark. So I was trying to build a full app, and that was it was just a jungle of different protocols, different programming languages, different frameworks, libraries, all interacting, and it was really slow. So I stepped back around like August 2017 and tried to look for a technical co-founder to join the team.
Good.
And I went through so many different people. You will not believe how many different people I went through. And I'm lucky that eventually I found a solid team. So right now it's a solid team of 3 people who are all doing technical stuff, and then me. So, and I'm trying to bring a new guy in for helping me with the sales strategy and customer development too now. So, tentatively,
Are they onshore or are they offshore?
They are onshore. They're not offshore. And they are not like freelancers. So that's another thing that I would highly caution you to really seriously consider if you're trying to build an app. Really, really, really be careful if you're trying to outsource this to some freelance agency, right? Because the reality is they don't see it as their IP. They don't see it as their intellectual property, right? They're seeing it as doing something for you in a temporary arrangement. But the nature of the beast in software these days is there's no such thing as like a temporary development. It's continuous development. You have to maintain that software. You have to keep iterating that software, improving that software to even just to like keep up with like updated standards, right? Like new versions of iOS come out, you might have to make some changes. Like literally, maybe even that's just small. Even if your app is relatively static and unchanging in time, but if you have a team that you hire, that outsourced, and then they're gonna want to get that done as fast as possible. They're gonna want to cut corners, right? And they don't want to drag this on, right? They want to get paid and move on to the next project. And then they also know they've got you by the balls, excuse my language. So if for you to find somebody else to sort of like take over from their work is very difficult. Like different people, different coders have different styles, and nobody likes to work off of somebody else's code. If most of the time, unless you get lucky, like you can run into a problem like, oh, somebody else takes over, like, oh, I can't read this code. I don't like the way this guy did this. I don't want to do this. I want to start over. I want to literally start over instead of like iterating on somebody's code. And then basically you're screwed, right? What do you do? And so these guys know they got you by the balls, right? So if you want a minor like scope change, you want to improve something, increase something, or adjust something. Maybe even you as a founder, you had some certain ideas, but now like 5 months later, you might think, oh wait, that was pretty stupid, right? What was I thinking? Maybe you talk to a couple of users and you say, oh man, what was I thinking? Why did I figure that out? And you say, oh no, you know what? Let's not do it this way. Let's do something that way. If you chase stuff, watch out, the bill's just going to go up, 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 up. Yeah, there's actually a good. So I'm not. It's not just me saying this. There's smarter people than me saying this. There's a good Y Combinator startup school video by one of their team that addresses like why they do not believe that outsourcing works.
I agree.
Paul, I have. Oh,
Yeah.
so sorry, Paul. I have a couple of questions for you. It's Victoria.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating story that you're saying. I'm just wondering if your app is live, and how do you generate the income?
Right.
So
Oh yes, the app is live,
if-
so you can find it. You can check it out, and you can give me some feedback. We can try to make it better as much as possible on our end.
How many clients do you have? What is your income? How do you generate income?
Right. We're not generating income. That's the simple story. We're around 115 users at last count. I think we're getting about one to three users a day at the current rate. Now this is why I'm trying to bring on a new person in the team to help with customer development, because I'm trying to accelerate this, and I'm trying to learn from their greater accrued experience. Because for me, again, this is a learning from scratch, right? Just like I finally figured out how to get the product done, that was me learning how to build a team, how to find technical people, how to do product management. That took a while, but now I have to learn a whole new game. So yeah, right now it's not picking up that fast, and we're not even close to thinking about monetization.
Paul,
So in
another
terms of-
question. Yeah. Paul, so you're saying there's like only 100 people. Why do you think it's going to be very successful? There's so many dating apps over there, and they're very mature. Like this time of internet developing, like there is so much mature. Like, why do you think that your will be a huge success? Like, what will make it huge success in your app?
Right. So I'm not arrogant to say that I know it will be a huge success, right? But if you're asking me why, my gut intuition is that we have a chance. So in terms of comparison to dating apps, right? I don't think we're competing head on with dating apps necessarily. We're not saying that, okay, use PassionFruit instead of Tinder. That's not what we're saying. And I think I was trying to say in the beginning that it's definitely way more geared towards friendship. Okay. But let's stay with your where you're at with the dating apps, okay? Because I think it's still instructive. So the gender ratio in most of these dating apps, I don't know if you've read some of the studies, but they're heavily skewed male, right? So usually like 60-40, sometimes 65-35, sometimes 70-30. That's a pretty heavily male skewed, demographic, right? And we all know how supply and demand works. If you have that many guys, how can you satisfy all the guys, right? And the only thing you need to do is you go on the Tinder subreddit, or go on the Bumble. Bumble is not the Bumble subreddit. And what you will see is a trend. You'll see a pattern. There's a lot of frustrated guys who are trying to use these apps, but they can't get anything happening, right? It's like they just can't make anything happen for themselves. So think about how many people are in that boat, right? Now think about
mean when you're saying like nothing happens, so I can't like, for example, there's a guy in, let us say, Match. I think Match.com, there is one of the very popular. So you're saying like, if there is I'm a guy and I'm on this website, on this Match, so you're saying that possibility for me to find my match is it's slow. It's not a big one.
It's not just low, it's impossible. Okay. Some of these guys have tried for so long. Why do I think that way?
Yeah, I know a lot of my friends that got married and they're happy from Match.com.
No, I'm saying it definitely works. If they didn't work, these apps wouldn't get business. Right? But for me personally, I use Tinder, I use Bumble. I will be very honest with you. It flat out just okay. I think in total I have had about four dates maybe out of using Tinder for years. But that's as far as I got. And there's people who had less success than I did even. But I wouldn't say that's a success by any means. And why do I think that? So, okay, I definitely agree. For some people it works. For many people it works. For millions of people it works. But for millions of people it doesn't work. Okay. Maybe it's a minority. I don't have the exact numbers, but think about why it wouldn't work, right? Now, the user experience is completely predicated on your looks. What if you don't have great looks? I mean, that's like not a polite thing to say, but we can't all be like at the the tail of the bell curve, right? There's a distribution, and some people were endowed with more blessings, more gifts, and even something like height, for example. Like I'm 5'3", and I think now that Bumble makes you put your height too, so I put 5'3". I don't think I have to explain that is something that. So for women, you can actually filter. Oh, I only want to take guys above 5'6"
or something.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't even like. I just don't have a shot from like the beginning. I just literally I'm ruled out from the start. And then there's a whole aspect of now we're getting into the racial aspect, right? But there's like Asian men are sort of like. There's a lot of angry Asian men. They say Asian men in Western society are marginalized. We're not respected. We're seen as very feminine. We're not seen as attractive. There's this whole angle, and you've seen like offshoots. Like now, there's like some apps that are specifically designed for Asian dating. So just for Asian men to maybe have a little bit of a shot. And a funny thing there. So sometimes like Caucasians go into those apps, and they're very popular there. So there's Asian men that complain. Why are the non-Asians coming here? So you got these interesting things going on.
Oh God,
these are like really broad social dynamics, right? So I don't think it's a surprise that some people are just going to get lost in that sea, right? You have this like conveyor belt system of like snap judgments. Like, yes, I want this person. No, I don't want this person. Some people are going to be no's more consistently than others, and they're not going to. Yeah.
Paul, there's another question. You think you have like, why did you, like, I have many questions. So one of the questions, I have a lot of questions.
Sure.
If you're talking about like, you start your own business, and we know like in different businesses you can buy a business. What do you think like you would be if you have a financial support, because you think like there's one CEO, which is very expensive, most likely 3 programmers, they're also expensive. So you pay a lot of money.
No.
But
who do I pay? Sorry, we're not
3 programmers, 1 CEO. It's expensive team. It's not a cheap team.
We're sort of co-founders, so we're just a team. So we're not. So
it's a friend. It's a friendship. It's kind of a friendship.
I mean, I wasn't friends with them before I started working on this with them, but I guess in our team
it's like a hobby at this moment. We would say it's like a hobby that potentially can grow in a big business, because you're not paying the money for this. It's not really a job. It's on your on your free time.
Passion. More of a passion. Well, it's not really. Free time is free time. I would say for me, definitely it's whatever time I have that I can dedicate to this, outside of just basic supporting my necessities of living. So this is my focus. For 2 of the other 3, for them it's also kind of pretty much full time. So they are applying. They're trying to find. They're younger. They're trying to find their next paid position. But in the meantime, they're full time, working on a project spent here. So maybe that's not sustainable long term. But as of right now, for them, it's also full time. And then for the one other senior engineer, he is part time. So he has a full time position working elsewhere. And for this one, it's kind of like very, very much a strain on him actually. So it's really amazing how he's able to contribute, and he makes such huge impact, because like he's very impactful, even though he's already got a full-time job somewhere. So just like he has 2 full-time jobs almost.
Wow. No, it's excellent. But the whole idea is, so why, like there's a lot of different algorithms to have like a matchmaker. There is a huge amount of algorithm that can. Did you come up with your own one, or did you build on something that already exists?
I think calling it an algorithm is sort of is giving it too much credit. I don't think there's actually any. I don't think we have a good enough algorithm for
Oh,
matchmaking.
there are a lot. Matchmaker has like their own protocol.
That's
Another
right.
one, they have like 3 or 4 right now different protocols. How do you find a friend based on behavior, based on look, based on different type of activities? There's a huge amount. It's
So,
a very
but
mature area.
what I'm saying is that if you actually use like these apps,
Okay.
you quickly find out that what are you talking about algorithm? Like I'm just getting random suggestions. Like there's nothing. I don't feel like there's anything special. Like there's no secret sauce here because it hasn't solved the problem, right? So there's attempts, and a lot of companies market themselves like we have our own internal AI. So there's one good example of this is an app called We3. So it's sort of like a similar to Bumble BFF. Was like try to get 3 groups of 3 people together to go hang out and stuff. And so you could try it out. Like just try it out and observe the people that they suggest you to form groups with. I would personally say that I don't feel like they've really got an amazing algorithm. Like I don't feel I have too much in common with the people that they've suggested me. Also, so part of your algorithm has to take into account that you have the right people, right? So if you don't have the right people, your algorithm can't solve the problem, because even if your algorithm, even hypothetically, if your algorithm does work, if the person the algorithm says is ideal isn't using your app, again, you have a problem. But I'm skeptical overall about about the algorithm. I'll finish with this thought. Facebook has 2 billion people, right? Imagine if Facebook has so much data, so many people. If this came down to an algorithm, Facebook has so many machine learning engineers. Why isn't Facebook able to give you a great friend suggestion algorithm, right? We all know, like, so sometimes when you don't have enough friends on Facebook, you create a new account, they say, hey, we suggest this person, this person, this person. Mm-hmm. It's like, who is this person? Like, why this person? So even if Facebook hasn't figured it out, I don't think anybody's really figured it out.
Facebook has.
I have just a question, just because for me, I'm always looking for apps to meet people, right? And there are a few out there, like there's Scout and there's Nextdoor.
Oh God, Scout.
Right? Yeah. So Scout is basically Tinder with a different, like I don't think you swipe, but basically, you just don't know what you're gonna get on Scout. But it's a little crazy. But the thing is, for somebody who is not looking for anything else except to meet more people so that I can do business or network.
Yeah.
Aside from Meetup, there's not a lot of really amazing apps out there. Bumble BFF, of course. Sorry, I don't use Bumble BFF for meeting people. I use the Bumble Biz. That has worked great for me so far. So, but looking for, I just feel like I'm starting to see the same people, unless I want to go to Montreal and connect, you know what I mean? So how is it, your app, how can that app, as it evolves, help me to connect?
Or you could even say, how it will differentiate to the point that you'll get such a spectacular experience. People actually want to join in and say, you're giving great suggestions, to the point you'd say the algorithm could be the defining mode between you and, let's say, Bumble. And that's how it would help you go off to the races.
Yeah, be able to, for sure.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to answer. So before I answer that, I think she had something she follow up that was cut off.
Victoria?
About my Facebook comment. Was it by or whoever was that was speaking? I just wanted to get her.
Victoria, you have a follow-up question on that?
No, I'm listening to your question. It was so good question. I like it.
Okay.
I like it. I'm just listening. I like your story. It's so interesting. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So here's what we're trying to do differently. So it depends on what you're looking for, right? I think there's 2 questions here, but with Ivan, your question is like, so my question back to you is, now, are we talking now in the realm of like friendship? You want something deeper, you want a deeper connection, not for your business, but something like you're trying to find somebody that's going to maybe be, at your your wedding or your funeral, or somebody who's really intimately involved with your life? Are we talking
question.
in this frame now?
Yeah. So because I think I understand the nature of what you're doing. You're saying, hey, I'm going to meet people that are also interested in photography, so we can get together and talk about photography and build a relationship that way. And then from there, whatever evolves from there evolves. And I like that, because that's kind of the way that Meetup works, and it works really well. I like that. So, but I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way that you're targeting. Is there growth in the big business segment so that people can select things specific to business? As not like Shopper or Shaper does, because I find that to be a little bit more boring and more the same cold kind of swipe.
I would say that I think direct selling or overt business is something that we probably could not cover very well. But if you're looking for a co-founder, if you have a sort of a new idea, like if you want to get more, grassroots about it, if you want to get more introspective, you really want to explore, then I think it might do the job. So we all know how difficult it is to find a co-founder, right? I mean, you need to establish trust. I think that's the key ingredient that's missing with the existing platforms, is that you have a lot of information overload. You find out everything about this person's resume, everything they've done, but you don't know about their character. How can you find out about a person's character through this information? You can't, right? So that's a set of information they don't deal with. So what we can do is we can establish fertile ground for people to establish trust between each other. And what I'm saying is, my hypothesis, how is trust established, is when you go deep into a subject matter that you both can relate to, that you both care about, right? Because if you stick on the surface, if you stick on credentials and experience, like I don't have that, I'm not going to be able to realistically do a background check on you, like, hire a private investigator, figure out if everything you're saying is true or not, right? I have like a ballpark idea of everything that you've done up till now, but I can't check all of those details, right? I can't do that due diligence. It's impossible. But how can I vet you such that we can build trust, right? I think there is a way. I think you have to go into a subject which you both have some domain expertise in, you're both passionate about, and you have to observe the dynamics of that conversation, right? Let's say you're passionate about cryptocurrencies. Let's say, just one example, and you want to do a new project in the crypto world. You want to start a new blockchain, let's say. It's pretty easy to tell after some time if this person's a total BS or not, right? if we're both purportedly saying that we are both passionate about the space, right? And we've studied this space and we have ideas, then we try to bounce ideas off each other. If this person is genuine, okay, yeah, this person's genuine. He knows his stuff or she knows her stuff. But if they're just sort of trying to fake it, you can kind of tell. And for that, you only have to focus on one subject matter, but you have to go deep down the rabbit hole, right?
Right.
So just to bring it back to Stephen's question, like, what's the differentiator? I think we have to attract a different sort of crowd. That's my thinking right now. Like, okay, so the Bumble BFFs and the Scouts and things like that. I think honestly, like, like most of the people here probably wouldn't be their target audience, right? You wouldn't be there, and there's a lot of people who wouldn't be there. I've tried to be there. I was there. It didn't really work that well for me. Not that amazing an experience. And so there's a whole class of people that is not being served. And I like to think of it as like somewhere between what they represent and something like Reddit, let's say, right? Because now Reddit, you actually have some real valuable information there, right? So if I'm doing like research about a topic, often like one of the first places I go is I go to Reddit and I see what people are saying about it on Reddit. And sometimes you get a wealth of information. Like people, it gets upvoted, so they've got the algorithm worked out to get valuable content to the top. and you see, oh, okay, I didn't know that, but that's great. I've gotten some insight now. But so what's missing from Reddit? Now there's a category of people that lurk on Reddit. They never contribute to Reddit, right? I think it's like very small fraction of Reddit users that are actually contributing content. And my question is like, why would these people not want to contribute, right? What is it about that Reddit community that makes people hesitant? And I'm in that boat. So I'm not like, I don't feel a particular urge to weigh into these Reddit conversations. But Reddit has this own subculture that it's all about anonymity, right? It's all about, you don't know who anybody is. So when you think about, so let's say 2 weeks ago, I was on Reddit, and I learned some stuff. But who did I learn from? Who was that person? I have no idea. I do not remember who said what on Reddit. I only remember the content, right? And so they've had that subculture going on. But I think as humans, there's another subset of us that needs to relate ideas to identities. For us, the context behind ideas matter, right? Like who has the idea, that matters. So if I think about among people that I know, okay, this person has this perspective. It's not just the content itself, right? It's not an anonymous, shapeless form has some opinion or weighs in with some information about a topic. In that case, I'm only addressing the information itself. The human identity is lost. But if you have a human identity, you get more nuanced context about something. And you say, okay, that person believes this. I see why, because I know this person, I know why they think this. And then there's more layered information there, right? And you get a deeper sort of information, more relatable information, and I think a more human experience. And I think that's the gap we're trying to fill. And I think that's why, Reddit, it has a place. And these other apps, they don't attract people that really want to have deeper intellectual discussions. And so we're trying to bridge that gap. So that's, I would say, is the differentiator, right? Like, let's say I wanted to talk about, I'm getting into learning like philosophy. And I want to talk about like, Hegelian philosophy or Kantian philosophy, or I'm studying Heidegger, or I want to talk to somebody about that. Where do I go, right? Where do I go? Outside of like people that I already know. But let's say people that I already know, they're not into philosophy. It's kind of a new branch that I'm on. Like, I'm really passionate about it, but my friends, they've sort of gone on in different directions. So that's not really a fertile ground. So where do I go, right? The only place you could go is kind of like Reddit, right? So you either go to Reddit or you go to some other, pretty much Reddit, right? They've dominated the market. Or you go to some other obscure forum somewhere, set up, like Web 1.0 forum, bulletin board for philosophy. But in either of these cases, anonymous spaces, right? You're not going to have an ongoing dialogue, a continuous dialogue, and you can't grow it. It's not a tree that you can keep growing, right? But if you search in the sea of like real people, now you're, like I said, trying to bridge the gap between the Reddit and the Bumble BFF. You've got a real human behind that, and maybe you can form a long-term relationship, and that can blossom into beautiful, unexpected things. But if you're stuck in that Reddit space, you kind of just have that, and you're going to move on to a different subreddit. You're going to have another conversation. So, and you're going to forget who the person was. So you can't really build anything. I hope that.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Paul, so we're saying you develop it from scratch. Am I right?
Yeah.
So now you need the technical support, like you need databases, you need to really to understand what technical resources you're going to use. Are you using, so this is quite expensive as well. Are you using Azure, are you using Google Cloud, or are you using your own infrastructure?
We're using AWS, and so we are using AWS, and the secret is, well, it's not really a secret, but anybody can get $5,000 of free AWS credits, and so we're using that right now. And with the current traffic, it should last us about 2 years. So that's basically for startups. Anybody can get it. All you have to do is you have to sign up for the Y Combinator Startup School, and you have to like make 8 consecutive weekly updates for your startup, and they're very short to do every week. So and nobody checks them. So it's like you just submit a report every week, and then after 8 weeks, they'll unlock a section, and you get a free code. You get $5,000 for your startup.
Okay, so
Amazing. Wow.
you could almost say that's an incubator. You could say a standpoint for Amazon to say, here's this little incubating chest for you to start out. If it really works out for you, then of course it's off. You can go further, and if you're just dabbling, it's almost like they're trying to pull people who are really aren't afraid to try something new, literally.
Yeah. So for AWS, it makes business sense, right? So there's a next tier up as well. So so $5,000 credit, and it's very easy to get, right? The next tier up is something called affiliated programs. So that's $100,000 credit. Okay, so that you can get as well, but you have to be supported by some incubator officially, like Y Combinator. You have to get into actual YC, one of their cohorts, or you get into TechStars, or you get into like Founders Institute here in Toronto or whatever. One of these recognized, there's like 500 organizations that they recognize that once you're affiliated with those, you can get to the next tier, which is 100,000, right?
Okay.
So basically, it's for Amazon, and Google has a sort of equivalent thing too, I think, and Azure does as well. So for them, it's all about building new business. The more startups that are able to build like valuable new business cases, the more income they get from their cloud, right? So because cloud for them is all about like almost free marginal revenue, right? Free marginal profit, because they make all this upfront infrastructure investment, CapEx, but then for every marginal new customer that comes in, it's like almost free profits, free printing money. So for them, it makes a lot of business sense. They want to encourage new startups to do well, because if you do well, you're the new Clubhouse, let's say, you're going to have a lot of traffic. You're going to use up a lot of bandwidth. You're going to need a lot of compute. So they want to foster more and more of these startups to grow into the ecosystem.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. So
Amazing.
For the end, I do have one question. I know, Paul, you said you're just bringing on someone to do that monetization and look to see where you're going and what's feasible onto your team. Where do you see as the app the owner, developer, where do you see it going for monetization? Where would you like to see it?
Oh, yeah, very good question. So I think there's really 2 paths to monetization that we can take, and I would prefer the second path, personally speaking, because I like keeping the app free for everybody. I just wanted to make it as accessible as possible, right? But the first path is subscriptions, right? So let's say we have a certain number of users, I don't know, 50,000 users or whatever, and we can't really grow beyond that. So I think if you don't have enough users, if you're stuck in that sort of range, you kind of have to settle for a subscription model. You kind of have to settle for something like that, or a freemium type thing where a certain, maybe 10% of your users, they support you by buying some premium features instead of getting a few extra bells and whistles. But yeah, so if we provide enough value, but we can't grow that community beyond that size, then I think we have to at some point go to the community and say, look, okay, we hope you've been enjoying the service. It's been free, but if you've been really making friends off of this, then it's really creating some value for you, right? And I think something like $5 a month, $10 a month, it's not too crazy if it's actually working. So you can't do it with 100 users or 500 users. I think you're not really solving people's problems yet. You're just trying to build a network still. You're trying to get these people who believe in your vision, early adopters, evangelists. You're trying, people who really are buying for the future, not for what it solves for them now. But if you can get to that second sort of a step on the ladder where you have enough users to actually get things done, create value, solve problems, but you can't really grow it further, you're sort of plateaued, then I think you have to do a subscription model, right? Now, the second way to do it is the way that I prefer. And, I really respect companies like Google and Facebook, even though they have, they're detractors for all sorts of reasons, but the fact that they provide such an amazing service for people globally for free. And it's such a great value that they provide. And for my life, look at all the research I've done on Google, I haven't paid $1 for that. So if I can build a business like that, like add off of it, like native ads. So I think you need something like Pinterest level of skill to make that work. So you need like tens of millions of users at least, right? But let's say we have that many users. I think it's a threshold. It's critical mass of users. We can actually monetize off of ads because we're doing based on passions. And just imagine somebody's into rock climbing, and they're trying to meet people about rock climbing. We have like a sponsored ad in there with the closest rock climbing center. Maybe they're running an affiliated discount through PassionFruit. Sign up, get 50% off the first 3 months if you sign up for PassionFruit. We work these things in, and I think it would make a lot of sense. And because it's so passion driven, context driven, I think these ads can be tasteful, and people will appreciate them. Even the ads will add a layer of value themselves. They're not just going to be intrusive and annoying. And I think it could work. I just think that they haven't worked for most of these dating apps. Like they are all like 99% of their revenue is from subscriptions. It's like 1% from ads. They try to do ads, but they're very annoying because all you're doing is you're just looking at pretty pictures, and then suddenly you get an ad about, I don't know, condoms. You don't want that. You're not in that mental space at all. Like you're just like, I don't need this right now. And they haven't figured out what kind of ads need to convert. And again, I think that goes to show that for the other types of apps, even that say they're trying to match people on algorithms and friendship, like I don't think they've cracked it because they're not making that ad income, right? Because if they've actually said that they've actually used some contextual data to match people, then supposedly they would also be able to monetize off of the ads somehow, right? Because they would actually be able to know what people prefer and then send them those ads. But I don't think it's been solved. And so they probably don't even have enough users to solve it, to be honest, whoever's trying that. So I do think we need to get to a really, really big scale, like 20 million, 25 million users in order to even consider something like that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our members have many more questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
totally.
Would it be possible to put your contact or some sort of contact if you would
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
following up
In the chat window.
Sure. Let me put my email.
And by the way, everybody, just so that you know, I've signed up. It's I think I don't know if anybody else has, but
I just signed up too.
you're good. Okay,
Awesome.
yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
I will as soon as I get off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't
we've got some
my profile yet.
Okay. Oh, well, we've got some pretty friendly people right now because it's early going. So
Right.
we have like 100 people. I think like 20 or 30 are my friends, people that I know. And then we have some new people joined as well. And I think right now it's a pretty friendly vibe. There's a few people that might not respond. I'm trying to do something about that, like the ratio of people that are sort of active or just ghosts. I'm trying to work on that. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I hit the subscribe to the mailing list, but then do we go in and do a profile as well?
Oh, the mailing list is just so we haven't really started sending out regular newsletters yet, but that's just for the newsletters about announcements, and we'll send them there. But for the app itself, no, it has nothing. There's no connection between the newsletter and the app. You just
Okay, but
you just
so
click on one of the links.
to build a profile, we go into the App Store and take it from the App Store. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, App Store, Play Store. Yeah.
Okay, I'm the least technical person of the whole group, Paul. So I need let me tell you.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I'm pretty
It's my
bad
claim
too.
to fame right now. So Okay,
but
so
Paul,
I
I
gotta
gotta
go in
say-
and get it. So
Yeah,
I'm
Paul-
going in to get it now.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, Paul, I gotta say, I've learned a lot about the thinking, and I love your thinking around the app, and it's a different way of thinking, and it makes you kind of deconstruct the apps that are already out there, and you start to see similarities in who they're addressing, and there are things about these apps that don't work, right?
I think there are gaps.
Mentality.
I think it's actually there's definitely still gaps and opportunities. I think it's still a young space. I think for example, if I was saying that I want to make a search engine, that would be crazy. If I were saying I want to like make a better Amazon, I think that would be pretty crazy. I think those are pretty well solved,
Done.
or at least I think you really can't compete there. Like,
Right.
You'd be crazy to try to compete. But I think in this friendship sort of, Scout, Bumble BFF space, I think you can see there's a difference. I think you see that they're also still in experimentation mode. They haven't really like solved it.
Yeah.
So to speak. So
I also think swiping is an addiction. I think it's an addiction. You want to see the next face. What's the next face?
yeah, for sure.
Talk about finding your niche, right? Like,
Yeah.
you think, oh, it's flooded, right? Look at all the apps, but you've really drilled down to find out where that missing link is.
And we're still working to further drill down and further laser focus, and that's why I'm trying to bring this new person in, so we really get even tighter on our messaging, because I still do feel it's a little too broad, and that's why some of these great questions, like Stephen, you came up with it. Your great question was differentiator, and I really think driving that messaging home and really knowing who our core early evangelist audience that we should really hit hard, really go after, and that we're really going to resonate with our mission. It's something that we're continuing to work on.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Paul, for your time.
So I got a question here,
It's my
Paul.
pleasure. Yeah, absolutely.
You said the app's called Blossom, right?
No.
PassionFruit.
Oh, PassionFruit. All right.
.me.
Yeah.
Because I went in there and I'm going, Blossom, what is this all about? Plants and stuff.
That's okay.
Oh.
You put in passion fruit, all you get are passion fruits.
That's right.
That's why I keep reading me.
I can see why you. Yeah.
So go ahead, Paul.
No, I can see why you made the connection, because that's how we came up with the name. Actually, somebody suggested to me Passion Match, but I thought that sounded like pretty much like a dating app and very like romantic. I thought, okay, no, what we wanted to connect people on their passions, but we want these relationships, these friendships to blossom, to take fruit. And so that's kind of like, I kind of understand why you get the conversation there.
Amazing.
Awesome.
So folks, we're out of time, and I know there's a million questions. Thank you so much, Paul, for providing your email, and maybe we can have you back in 6-8 months and see how that next stage is going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to be back. I mean, I might tune into your show just like every now and then. As well, just as a listener.
That's amazing.
Okay, that's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And again, don't forget the women's this afternoon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great
everybody.
week, guys. Bye-bye.
Have a great week.
Take care, everyone.
Bye,
Take care,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you. This was really interesting, Paul. Thank you so
It was
much.
amazing, wasn't it? Yeah.
All right,
Thanks,
glad you liked
everybody.
it.
I just registered. I don't know. I'm finding some